Hello and welcome to 23rd of June. The 23rd of June, I'm doing an update on the one patch method. Um, when you're quitting a bad habit, there is no going backwards. It's even if you fail, it's all progressing towards the ultimate conclusion, which hopefully is that we will quit our bad habits. Um, some people never do, and that's sad. But if you try, then at least you're trying, and every attempt gets you a bit further towards being successful. Now, some people would say if you try and fail, you'll just make it easier to fail in the future. Uh, there are people who have one or two attempts and go for it very strongly and succeed straight away. That's not me, as you know. But today I'm going to be talking about why the one patch method works, how it works, and how it doesn't work as well. Um, so the one patch method, you've got your patches and you put them on, and the instructions say wear them for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then go down to uh, the lower strength and wear them for a couple of weeks, and then gradually you'll be free from nicotine and the addiction by reducing gradually, and then finally going without patches. Um, there is some truth that it does take a while to get rid of your triggers. For me, I don't anymore smoke when I go shopping. I'll be wearing a patch if I go to I don't know, to the dentist. If I go to town, I don't. It doesn't occur to me most of the time to smoke. So I've got rid of those triggers, and that's how it works. You get rid of the triggers one by one. And the trigger, for example, is say you always want to smoke when you wake up. Then the first time you wake up, you say to myself, "I'm going to not smoke," and it seems hard, but it's not actually that hard. So the next day, it's not daunting anymore. You do it again, and after 1 or 2 days, that trig that trigger is no longer there. You don't need to smoke when you wake up, and that's probably the most daunting, scary one for a lot of people is the cigarette when you first wake up. I've been through it myself, having quit and relapsed. If you just go through it once, you'll realise it's fine to go without, particularly if you've got the patch on or a new patch. You can put a new patch on in the morning. Any way you do it is fine. Whatever way you do it is fine. Now, I was going to do this morning. I went to bed without a patch on, or maybe I took it off after a couple of hours in bed sleeping. So I woke up with no patch on, and I just felt a bit sort of depressed. Now, it might seem like my partner said, any excuse will get you is fine, but with smoking, there is this element of the mood element that you do get a bit depressed without the nicotine for a few days, maybe for longer, but a bit of depression is not, it's all right. And you can have a coffee to pick yourself up. I mean, it's not good to rely on drugs in any way. You could go for a jog, you could sit in the sun, you could have a sweet cup of tea. Um, the important thing to remember is that even though it seems like cigarettes are the only thing that you want, there's actually a lot of things in life which give you a lot of pleasure. and cigarettes actually take away that pleasure because when you have a cigarette, you don't notice, for example, the sunset. You can see a sunset and you think, "Oh, that's a sunset." But if you're nicotine free, even for a few hours, you'll see the sunset and you'll think, "Wow, that's beautiful." And uh, there's a million good things in life. And part of the problem we have as smokers is that we can't see the good things. All we see is the next cigarette, and it's a half life living from cigarette to cigarette. I'm not going to be on my deathbed, hopefully, touch wood, in 30 or 40 years' time, maybe, saying, I wish I'd smoked more cigarettes. I'll be saying, I wish I hadn't smoked those cigarettes so I could have appreciated all the other things in life more. And that's a simple fact. There are plenty of things in life which can and will give you a high on every, all the time, not just once a day, many times a day, and they will take the place of cigarettes. For you, it's you got to find your own things that replace cigarettes, and it shouldn't be alcohol, it shouldn't be caffeine, it should be something healthy. That's the whole point. There's worse habits than cigarettes. There's better habits. We're all trying to get better habits. So with the one patch method, as I was saying, the nicotine patch companies want you to be hooked on their product, which I certainly have been. But all it takes is one patch, maybe two, and so we'll put the patch on. If you've got a load of cigarettes, smoke them or give them away. That could take a while because some people have a lot of cigarettes stored up. And just keep one. So when you've got rid of all your cigarettes, you might have tobacco if you're a hand roller or a machine rolling tobacco user. And I'm not talking any point in my videos about marijuana or anything like that. I never do that. I'm just talking about pure tobacco. So once you've got the patch on, take one, maybe two. I'll take two papers, put them aside for later, and cut up all of your papers. So I feel bad about wasting paper, but paper is made from trees, and trees are natural. Uh, um, so once you cut up your papers, throw them away. You have to cut them up small so that you can't. I mean, you could possibly make a roll from a piece of newspaper, but we won't do that. We're not going to do that. I've got an alcohol-free beer, 0%, as you can see. I've given up alcohol for about 5 years now, but I feel confident enough to be able to drink alcohol-free beer without it turning me back onto the alcohol. That's just an aside. So you've got the patch on. This is the one patch method. So what we'll do, you can have one of your roll ups straight away if you feel the need. I kind of do. And with the patch on, I've said all these things before. With the patch on, the roll up will have. It's a bit like the stop smoking tablets. It won't, but it's not as thorough as the stop smoking tablets. It, the tobacco will have a small effect. It won't have a big effect, and that's going to trick your brain into thinking, oh, these cigarettes are basically very uh, weak, and it'll make you think you don't need them. So this is a kind of psychological trick to have one or two cigarettes while the patch is on, and you should do this within an hour or two, straight away probably really. And with the tablets that you can get, like Varenicline, you can get in the UK, and I think there's one called Tabex, something like that. You can get from Bulgaria, which is exactly the same, but with a very slightly modified chemical formula. You take the tablets, and the cigarettes do absolutely nothing for you. It's like you could be smoking, herb. Not, I don't mean marijuana. As I said, I'm not nothing to do with marijuana. You could be smoking tea, and you just don't get a high uh, from cigarettes if you're on the tablets, the Tabex or the Varenicline. And if that sounds good to you, then I suggest you seek out those tablets. But for me, it didn't work because I just thought I want the high, so I'm not going to take the tablets. And then I stopped taking the tablets. But with this one patch method, you put the patch on, and I'm actually going to be taking it off maybe after 2 or 3 hours. That's all you need, and then you're a non smoker. The problem is, you can go back to smoking, and this is a kind of existential. The word is kind of a problem that you'll always have as an ex-smoker, or even as an ex-drinker, or as an ex-binge eater, or if you've given up caffeine. There's always going to be that possibility of going back. Not necessarily in your own mind. In your own mind, you might be determined. Like I'm determined with alcohol, I'm just not going to have it again. I think it's really bad. But the reality is, I could walk into a shop and buy alcohol, and that's just the reality of the situation. And with cigarettes, for me, the one patch method, like I said, it has worked and it hasn't worked. And the reason it works is because it just does work. You're no longer addicted to the cigarettes after it. It takes a few hours, that's all it takes. You put the patch on, you have a couple of cigarettes, you leave the patch on for a few hours, and then you can leave it on for hours and hours if you want to. You only need one patch. You can have two patches or three patches if you feel a bit shaky, but you just got to wait until that you make that decision. Maybe you're watching a motivational video, and and then you decide, I don't want nicotine anymore. I'm going to take off the patch. So you take off the patch. Lo and behold, you don't need cigarettes. But the problem is, you can just go and buy some if you have the slightest desire or inkling of the idea. Now, the problem for me is I'm very suggestible. So if I see an ashtray, it makes me want to smoke, even though, like I said, with the one patch method, you're no longer addicted, except the psychological addiction might still be there. And the way to get past that is simply to get past it by pulling yourself up by your own bootlaces. You've got to find your own reasons, your own strength, and the reasons that you have for avoiding smoking are very much connected to the act of avoiding smoking. That's how the human brain works. If we do something, we rationalize it. If we have a rationalization for something, we do it. So the pulling up by your own bootstraps can be simply knuckling through, white knuckling through, and saying, I'm not going to smoke for half an hour. And if you get through that, then that trigger will be in the past. And you'll say, oh, I didn't smoke in the morning. People who smoke in the morning are addicts, and I am not an addict. Say, for example, you find your own reasons as you go along. And sometimes it's about pushing through, and sometimes it's about using logic. And as I said, the logic follows the action follows the logic, and vice versa. So sometimes it is just about being strong and persevering, and it seems like it's endless, but it's not endless because you realise, I mean, in a sense, it is endless because we will be having these triggers for the rest of our lives, but they get fewer and further between. And you might say to yourself, "Oh, I've been all day without thinking about cigarettes." That's basically as good as you can get. We're not going to be saying, "I feel great" without cigarettes. You might say, "I feel great," and you might feel great, but we're getting older, we're not getting younger. Our health isn't, our health might get better, but we're still getting older. But the key is, without smoking, our health won't be getting worse so much. Our health might well get better, but that's nothing really to do with cigarettes. It's cigarettes can only make your health worse. Our health can get better or worse. Um, but I think the goal is to just forget about cigarettes, and you can't ask for any more than that. And if you forget about cigarettes, then you can work on other layers of problems in your life. If so, you might quit cigarettes and then think, "Oh, I might, all right, I've done really well with that. I'm going to quit alcohol or caffeine. Or I'm going to work on my sleep, or I'm going to exercise, or watch less TV, or whatever it might be." The cigarettes are masking your other problems. It's hard to think about, oh, I don't know, I haven't called my auntie in 10 years when you're coughing and coughing or at night because of acid reflux from the cigarettes. Once you've got rid of these problems from the cigarettes, you'll you'll get deeper into your other problems, and that's a good thing because gradually you'll get you have fewer and fewer problems. You know, Instead of just ignoring the problems, turning to alcohol and cigarettes, and the problems get worse, but you don't care because you got the cigarettes and the alcohol. Anyway, I'm going to go and smoke this, and I'll take the patch off in a few hours, maybe in 2 hours. And I might watch some motivational videos. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry I went on and on. I wonder if anyone will ever watch this. Thank you. Bye.